Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday, the 26th of October. Looking at the euro dollar first and looking from the daily perspective, yesterday we put in a bullish reversal candle actually, which could see a bit of continuation here. It's completely engulfed the body of the previous candle, put a new low in and a new high in all at one go. So there's the potential for the euro to push up from this sort of signal. Generally, as I say, seen as bullish. Now, where to? Well, I'm still looking. We've got a weekly pivot untouched above us. If we do start seeing a bit of traction, we could make our way up to that weekly pivot and back into the monthly S3 candle, I believe it is. Yep, back into that S3 candle. So that's certainly a potential. Now, at the moment, we're at double tops with yesterday's highs. And it really, I think if we see a break of that, then in that sort of direction, and certainly we could get in that sort of distance today. If it does roll over from this double top, well, to be bearish, I really need it to be below the break of the lows here. So I'll just put the lows there. I really need to see a break of those lows, and then I would possibly look towards yesterday's lows in the S1. At the moment, I'm erring on the bullish side. Cable. So we'll look at the bigger picture on cable. Well, yesterday it almost came down. I mean, it did double bottom to the lows on the 11th as opposed to the flash move on the 7th. So it came back to those lows on the 11th there, double bottomed off those, came off a MIDI pivot on the weekly pivots actually. So it made a pretty decent recovery. Now, part of that is the fact that almost called him Carnage instead of Carney then, suggested that inflation wouldn't just be left untapped if it starts pushing up too high, and on that basis the market sort of took that lead, and I noticed pulled right the way back. Now, it had been oversold. It had been oversold in quite a few different time frames. It's works most often now. It could still push up a little bit higher for the 4-hourly time frame to work off the oversold factor, and it's doing pretty much a good job at that at the moment, already through the 21s, heading up now. Where to? Well, if we could get back up towards yesterday's highs and that R1, which is above us up here, well, the S3 monthly S3 would be a reasonable target to get back towards. There are orders sitting above that, so it may even trigger and push on beyond if you can get that way. It's probably a biggish ask at the moment. It's got plenty of resistance sitting in the way there, but post 8 o'clock I'll be looking to see if we can get into a trade, maybe towards the longish side at the moment. However, if it starts putting in reversal candles, there is obviously, you should have a plan for that. The overall trend has been pretty much, following yesterday's lows there is confirmed towards the low side, but with that reversal that we saw yesterday afternoon at V bottom, we could, well, as I say, push up some a little bit more bullish than anything else here at the moment. For the short term anyway, long term I remain bearish. Right, dollar yen. Well, the yen pushed up yesterday again, and it's put this sort of reversal bar in. It's put this almost graveyard doji sitting in there on the dailies. It's also effectively a very weak divergence. It didn't get back up very high, but it's a double divergence because we'd already diverged a little bit higher, and it's diverged again. So it's suggesting a bit of weakness maybe again. It's put a pivot swinging on the 4 hours here. These three bars here, put pivot swinging. It didn't trigger them straight away, but it has triggered that, and it's looking bearish, which we're seeing here. Now we've got an untouched daily pivot above, so any rallies, well, I'd be looking for that as a possible target if I was trading it. A break of the 100 MA may be sufficient. There is a trend line across the lows here coming off from could be looking at, which is pretty close. Now, if we see a break of that, maybe we'll see it moves down to the S1, maybe a bit more. So most of its moved possibly through the Asian session, but it could have some more to come. Talking of moves through the Asian session, we've got the Aussie dollar, which had a huge move through the Asian session there. Now, yesterday picked up pretty well. We've already done a bigger range today than we did in the whole of yesterday. With the news throughout the CPI news coming out, inflation figures coming out higher than expected, 0.2 higher than expected. It's effectively removing the potential of interest rate cuts and putting more emphasis on possibly quite the opposite. So pushing up for the Aussie, and it's remaining in this sort of big bowl, and it could just continue. I say this big bowl, the bigger move that you're seeing here. Let's bring the dailies into view. We've been messing and flirting around these highs here. It closed up only once and just sort of ran into the prior highs there. Maybe it can push up and get towards its monthly R1 eventually. So it's got some potential to the upside. Post 8 o'clock may look for a bit of a retracement into it, but much of the move may have already happened from the news itself. Okay, and finally the Canadian dollar. Well, oil's come off, and it wouldn't be a shock to see the Canadian dollar to push up even further on that basis. However, with the US dollar effectively weakening a tad, we're seeing the CAD come back a little bit. Yesterday was a hanging man sort of candle sitting there, but as I say, with oil off at the moment, let's just check what oil's up to. Yeah, I was trying a little recovery here. It's broken the 21, the 5 minute 21, the daily 21 after that divergence. So it's not looking the sweetest, but well, anything can happen with oil at times, and it may push back. In which case, we could, if it starts pushing back, what with a slightly weaker US dollar, we could see a bit more movement to the downside. Looking from a 60-minute perspective, it's relatively flat for most of yesterday. The S1 could be well into hit, and maybe see a move back down to that 100 MA, all dependent on the US dollar keep on softening effectively. So be looking at those sort of targets. Right, that's it for me for the day. News-wise today, well, we've already had the Aussie data out. We've got some US data out later. We've got some new home sales, which is barely any kicker at 3 o'clock. So, and crude oil inventories at 3:30, which could give some volatility to both oil and the Canadian dollar. Aside of that, there's nothing so of significance. So it could be one of those, as I say, days that doodle somewhat, but we'll see. We've had some reasonable Asian session moves, and hopefully we may see a bit of continuation from yesterday evening. That's it for me. Have a great day. Bye for now.